cheese boards and stuff, like
charcuterie.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
You know, at why do I always forget the name of the place right over here on Ebenezer next to K-Brew?
Point B.
Point B. He's made some of those boards that you get the meals on. He's made.
Wow.
Yeah, but he's just like a man. Like he would love to like watch videos if you like.
Oh no, you guys would become
like talk. He would be like, "Can I go out and talk to the bees?"
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was so cool hanging out and checking out the bees. And like, I kind of talked about it in here. It was like quaint, but there's so much chaos because there are a million bugs and there's trains and there's planes flying. And there's like, it's like this weird, like quaint chaos, man. You know, it's just weird. It's just like another world. It's really cool.
Well, it when you're saying that, it's like a microcosm of like.
It's what it is, dude.
You're like in this little bubble in this bigger thing. Like I think of that even like where I live in Maryville. Like it feels like a quiet neighborhood. I'm near the school. There's kids around, but like 3/4 of a mile is Alcoa Highway basically. Oh, and there's like what tens of thousands of cars that drive down that road. Like there's never a time of day. I leave my house at 4:30 in the morning to come here. And there are cars that are already driving by. And so like that literally made me think of that. Like that's like a microcosm of our lives. Like we're trying to find that serenity and that little bubble of peace in all the chaos around us.
Right.
You know, like
it's insane.
That's wild.
Yeah. All right, cool. So we're finally on episode 3.
I'll say, are we already videoing? That's kind of how we just start.
Yeah,
usually is we just roll with it and usually start with something. I thought it would be my shirt today.
Pickle Squad. You want to explain that real fast for us?
I mean, I can. This is appalling to my family. But so when we first did this one, we were talking, I've come to the conclusion, I surround myself with physically superior human beings my entire life. Like my best friend growing up, taller, stronger, faster, better athlete. My wife was a Division I swimmer, like great athlete. Every training partner I've ever had is like just way better than me. I started jujitsu a few months ago. I did it a long time ago, but I've been doing it more regularly. He's a black belt. He has been since like 2017. Just like treats, I feel like a child when I'm like, you know, training, rolling with him, whatever. And so just a perfect example of that is like a couple weeks ago, I'm trying to work on something. I'm trying to like just smash him into the floor, like pin him down in side control. I'm driving my shoulder into his face as hard as I can to hold him in place. He can barely talk because of my shoulder. And he goes, "You smell like pickles." Completely indifferent to what I'm doing and no fear of like, he knows I'm not going to do anything. He's not getting submitted. Nothing bad's happened. Just completely indifferent. "You smell like pickles." And it's because of all the vinegar I washed my gi in.
Oh my God.
I went a little overboard and it smelled like pickles. So that has become my nickname.
Pickles?
Calls me Pickles.
He was just getting in your head. He was
but just the level of indifference to the fact that like he just does stuff to, again, like it's like I'm wrestling with my son. He does that to me. And it's just completely indifferent to what I'm trying to do. The fact that he's acknowledging that I smell like pickles. So that became a nickname. So then I'm like, well, I'm going to get shirts. And it was my kids and my wife they're mortified by it because I'll wear it to swimming. That's how I know him. His kids swim with my kids. And so I'll wear it to swimming with my fanny pack to really compound the issue. And they're just like, my dad is wearing a camouflage fanny pack and a Pickle Squad shirt. Like, this is not okay.
So is this now the Save None podcast with Ben and Pickles?
It can be. I mean, I just think, so this is going to be our jujitsu team name. I'm the worst one on the team. Like, we have several like guys that have trained for a number of years. We're kind of putting together. We train at a specific place, but I actually know some guys that are members here that train other places. But so that's kind of the joke. We're going to start our own little
Pickle Squad.
And it's going to be the Pickle Squad.
Pickle Squad.
So that's
I like it.
The shirt. I like pickles. They're good.
Well, when you have them for sale, let me know. I want to buy one.
We could do our own
Pickle Squad.
Awesome. But that's usually how we start. Some dumb story I'm telling.
Dumb story.
Unrelated to the podcast.
That's all good, man. I like that. Kind of brightens the mood a little.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, yeah. So Adam Shipley, I have like a little monologue I'd like to say.
Yeah.
Kind of introduce you, tell everyone about you in a couple sentences. You spent over 15 years serving and protecting communities here and abroad. You worked the beat with the Nashville PD, spent some time as a special agent in the Secret Service, went on to serve for the TBI, and then finished your career working with international law enforcement. After your time in service, you started a successful renovation and restoration company, all while writing and curating a book about early American tattoo history that can now be found in the Library of Congress. You're a husband, a father, and a man I've been lucky enough to call my friend for the past several years. Last December, you and your family bought some property in South Knoxville on a quaint piece of land tucked away on a mountainside where your new passion involves beekeeping and preserving endangered trees. As I've gotten to know you over the years, what strikes me is your humility. I mean, I just found out you were a college football player. Like, that's crazy. What also strikes me is your courage. You're the type of dude that would willingly and without hesitation walk into a fire to save a hamster. And the passions that I see pop up with you is your love of protecting, serving, and preserving. So that kind of leads me into my first question. What's the importance of preservation and why is it so meaningful to you?
The preservation, I mean, things get lost in time all the time. Like, if we look at the tattoo history stuff, those families that hold those stories, it was so cliche then that it wasn't a broadly known thing. So these guys' histories die with their families because they all hold those oral history stories. Then when you get into preservation of the property and the trees and the conservation that we're doing there, and even with the bees, it's since the early 1900s with industrial revolution and the farming has gone down. I mean, we're losing all these grasslands and trees to overgrown forests and stuff like that. So it's just important to me to preserve what we have and what we can put to the future for people, for information and nature.
Yeah, like I had this thought in the shower earlier and I was like, man, so for someone who restores things with his hands and their mind, like what are your thoughts of people's dependence on AI? You know?
That's a deep one.
That's what you're thinking about in the shower?
Pretty much.
I mean, we can see it now, like just looking at the trade industry, like high schools got away from sending, like they don't have trade classes anymore. Like you can, like when I was a kid was really the last time in high school that they had carpentry or wood shop or ag or these things that gave kids a secondary road in life for a job. Like they started, I mean, I remember going to the guidance counselor then, and it's like college, like if you don't go to college, you're not going to be anything. Like they want to push you to school. And so you've got to the point right now in society where people can't work with their hands anymore. And that's why we as consumers are having to pay so much for a plumber and electrician now, because there's nobody to backfill those roles. So where AI comes in is like, you can't replicate the human hand. You'll never be able to. You can replicate the words and, computer-based automation, but it'll never be able to build a house or restore a piece of furniture or wire a house. Like that'll never be there. Yeah.
That's something I thought about that quite a bit. So we would kind of talk before we started. Like obviously Ben had a relationship with you, knew a little bit about you. He sent me some stuff. I was kind of poking around, trying to get to know kind of who you were a little bit, and then got the rest of the information. And I was seriously intrigued. And so I kind of made like some notes and questions as well. And that was something that stuck out to me. You have an Instagram post where you're with your son, and I think you're making some components for like the bee hives or the beekeeping or something. And it made me think about like, I don't know if I'll ever show my son how to change the oil in a car, because that's probably not something that he'll ever do. Like I didn't have a ton of like hands-on, like one-on-one type of stuff, like father figure thing. But I'm also like, what are the types of things that I should be showing my son? Because there's value in that. And that was kind of a question that I had for you is like, what is something you have such a interesting background, which we'll get into, but like, what is something that you're really hoping that your son will take from you? And is it those types of things?
Yeah, I just wanted to be able to work with his hands, to have the mechanical process in his mind, to know how something works, and that he could, maybe he'd like me. I don't like to change my oil. I can, but I'm better suited to pay somebody else to do it. But I want him to understand how things work. Have like I call it a mechanical mind. I grew up with a lot of older farmers in my life and men in my life. And so I grew up under them, and I may not know everything about a certain piece of equipment, but my mind has that mechanical nature I used to take stuff apart as a kid. Right. Like my mom used to talk about it all the time. Get me a new toy and I would dismantle it in the first week. So I just want him to have that mechanical mind to where he has a tactile process of looking at
like
something.
Problem solving.
Yes.
Like even just as you're saying that, that's what I'm kind of thinking. And I'm thinking of like your bio and your background. And I'm like, there's like a problem solving component.
Yeah, because
to you especially. That
because the
like.
more you know, the more dangerous you are to. You take your car somewhere and they can tell you all this stuff's wrong with it. But if you have a pretty good idea of what's going on with it and you go in there with a basis of knowledge, then you're a whole lot more of a dangerous consumer than somebody that doesn't know what they're doing.
So you said you grew up on a farm.
Yeah.
Older people. Like, what was childhood like for you? Like, what did your parents do? And...
My mom and dad were both educators. My dad was a geography history teacher in the high school. My mom worked in the administrative office. She was like the Board of Education. And my whole family, when I was in high school, my dad was my history geography teacher. My aunt was my English teacher. My uncle was the principal. So it was a pretty interesting. Yeah. I mean, and I got suspended and I was in ISS and detention. So they didn't cut me any slack for sure.
It's almost like being homeschooled.
Yeah. Yeah.
True. So you went on, I mean, you had a little college football career. Like, we'll talk about that in a minute, but I really want to know, like, so what are some early childhood instances where you felt like you wanted to become a protector one day? You spent 15 years protecting people. I mean, was there like a moment, childhood or progression or?
No, I don't know if all young boys are attracted to fire engines and police vehicles, but that was my obsession as a kid. And I liked it. I don't know that the realization came later in college, but as a kid, I mean, I was just running around on the farm, working with my uncles and all the guys around me. And so I don't know that I really had, maybe it was raising animals, maybe started instilling a protective element there, but I don't know that it really came to fruition until I got to college and was kind of trying to figure out what direction I wanted to go.
I do think about that. Like, we're, kind of close in age. Like, I think of like when I was growing up, there was a certain, I don't call it hero worship, but things like, people work for the fire department, police officers, just like physically capable, dominant type humans. Like, that was a big thing for me. Like, that shaped a lot of who I am today. Like, I was overweight when I was a kid, and I was fascinated by like physicality and strength and like musculature. And like, I have now devoted most of my life to things that involve that kind of stuff. And then thinking about even like my own son, like, he's not a super physical kid. And like, I don't, I wonder like his perception of that stuff. Like, I remember growing up, like everybody wanted to be like a police officer or a firefighter or like wanted to be in the military, like, and times have just changed. So I wonder, is that across the board? I only have the lens of like my own children, and I have 2 daughters to start and then a son. But I wonder what that is like for, other little kids. And like, is it as common as it used to be? Like, just culture's changed so much.
Everyone wants to be a YouTube influencer or TikTok
star.
star.
I mean, I was even at a loss for words just now, but like if you ask my son what he wants to do when he grows up, like that's probably what he would say. He said zookeeper for a while, but it was like he wants to like do stuff on YouTube, and like not to disparage that, but it's just different.
Right.
Warrior mentality is kind of being lost,
Yeah, it's less of a physical.
And I think growing up where I did in rural East Tennessee, like military was a big deal. Like all the soldiers that were in our town, I mean, you looked up to those guys, military, I mean, law enforcement and firefighters and that kind of thing. It was just, it's a small town, and those guys were kind of, tip of the spear. And when you're that little, they're just different. And
they were heroes.
Yeah. Were you born with fortitude? You know what I mean? Some people, they learn that over time, but like you've had so much courage in every thing you've done in your life. Like, you'll just walk in and do it, like, where does that come from?
I kind of thought about that. I think so. My grandfather was a big kind of pillar of our family. And I think that, I just grew up like, you may be smarter than me, but you're not going to outwork me. Like, I'll work circles around you. Like, I'll work harder than you. You may be smarter. You're going to work less, but I'm going to work harder, and I'll achieve it. I'll beat you. If I don't, it'll be better bring your lunch, because it's going to be a long day. You know what I mean? So I think I just grew up grinding, man. Like, we had a farm, we worked, you just did it. We didn't have tons of money. Family wasn't rich. You just worked.
No choice.
Right. Yeah. You just worked hard. And everybody around you worked hard. Just tons of role models to follow after.
How old were you when you found like athletics and sports?
Oh, my dad
You played football in college.
Yeah,
So
my dad was a college football player. He coached football at the high school in my hometown. Later, coached basketball. He was just an athlete. So I mean, I was playing pee-wee football and t-ball when I could hold a football or a baseball bat. So I mean, very early. Yeah.
What was that experience like being a college so you were a scholarship athlete?
Yeah, I was on scholarship.
Yeah. What was that like? My wife swam in college and she was a scholarship athlete, and like just speaks so highly of like this, just it's like as close as you can be without being a professional athlete. Like there was just it's a different experience if people haven't had the opportunity to do it. Like what was it like for you?
I think the hardest part for me to overcome is like in high school, like it's fun. Like you're just playing, right? You got guys that take it more serious than others, but when you get to the collegiate level, it's like, all right, this is a job now. Yeah. Like, I mean, the freshman year, I went to Morehead State, and your freshman year, you had to go to what they called study tables. I think it was 2 or 3 nights a week for 2 hours after practice to just do homework, because like if you didn't have an X amount of GPA, like you weren't playing. Like they didn't. It was studies first, then football. But I mean, it was a full-time gig. Like you had summer program, you went straight into fall camp. Then you went, and I mean, we played in a lot of championships and finals. So like our seasons would last all the way into December. And then it's like you get 2 or 3 weeks off, and then you're back into winter workout, spring. So, I mean, I think it really built upon that work ethic.
Was that structure beneficial to you 100%. To where you're like, I don't really have time to get myself in trouble or veer off track. There was no time. Like, I've just got to keep going.
And you saw those guys fall off. Right. Like incredible athletes that just didn't have the structure to push through it,
Right.
Yeah.
After football, so what made you kind of ask me a question like this, like what kind of tipped you over the edge to make that decision to join the police and law enforcement? I mean, a lot of people say, oh, I want to be a cop, or I want to be a firefighter or military, but like no one makes that decision, because it's a freaking grueling job.
Yeah. So I went to college, initially was in like an agribusiness track. So I wanted to get into agriculture or business and like run a big farm. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it, but that was so after like it was about the first year, I was like, I don't think that this is something, because my uncle had dabbled, like he grew up on a massive farm operation. His dad still, I mean, it's hundreds of acres. I mean, it's a full-time, I mean, that's what he's done his whole life. And he went out west Oklahoma and worked on some like feedlots, like big cattle operations. And he came back and I'd hear his stories. And so I was like, this is probably what I want to do. And Morehead State had a really incredible, it wasn't criminal justice, it was a criminology track. And so it was like sociology and psychology kind of meshed into one, to where they had this professor that was, his training was in serial killers. So he literally went and interviewed all these prolific serial killers and had these classes on like their mind and how they thought, and kind of like profiling. And so I got super interested in that, and I was like, I think this is something I want to go after. I want to be a detective, which you're naive at that point and don't realize you just can't graduate college and go be a detective, be a homicide detective. So, but that's kind of the track. So I graduated in 2006 with a sociology or a criminology degree with the emphasis, or sociology with an emphasis in criminology.
And you went right into like a local.
I literally graduated on Saturday and was at the sheriff's department on Monday.
Really?
Working. Yeah, in my hometown. Yeah.
Wow.
Can you kind of just run down your law enforcement career? I mean, there was like so many achievements. I don't know. I was reading it and I was like, holy
I feel like
crap.
So I took the same kind of notes. Like you started local law enforcement, but you kind of like walked yourself up this ladder of like intricacy and like complexity, and like, what was it first like on the sheriff's department, like doing that? Like, I mean, you did that for a relatively short time. Like, was that kind of always the plan? Like how did that play out?
I just knew I had to get my foot in the door somewhere, right?
Right.
So that was the easiest to do in my hometown. And so, what you got to realize is, man, these guys that work in small town police departments and sheriff's department, can you imagine policing? I mean, like, you know everybody.
Yeah.
So, like, you may be taking people to jail that you went to high school with. So, like, that was a really eye-opening thing, because, like, we'd go out on calls and I'd be like, I know this guy, like my dad,
well, you weren't very far removed.
No.
You could be arresting your buddies.
Some of them were. Yeah. And that was kind of an eye-opener too. I'm like, and it's not like obviously as bad in one respect, but in that small town, I mean, we're really close to the coal mining communities up in Harlan, Kentucky. So like when I came out of high school, the pill epidemic was really hitting hard in that area. And so like it was prolific. So, I mean, I had friends that were, going to be pharmacists and doctors, all the way down to friends that were going off the state penitentiary for.
They're being street pharmacists.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So I kind of had that realization there. I just hadn't had that spark to kind of kick the can. And my first cousin is a defense attorney, and he was practicing in my hometown. And he decided that he was going to move to Franklin, Tennessee, to start his own practice there. And I was like, well, I'm going too. So I was like, started looking Nashville Metro Police Department, and I applied, and somehow they picked me up and I got hired. And so I moved to Nashville in 2007. So I was only on the sheriff's department for 6 or 7 months. Yeah.
So now like a whole new set of challenges, because you went from, smaller town, I don't want to say lesser degree typical calls or whatever, but a lot of people, to now you're going into this big metropolitan area, and it feels like everything is probably just like escalating. Like,
you got to realize from that point, like the largest city I'd ever really been to was Knoxville.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I graduated high school in Claiborne County, went to Morehead State, which is in Morehead, Kentucky, which is between Lexington and Huntington, West Virginia. So it's still, it was a suitcase school. Everybody went home on the weekend and came back on Monday, right? So here I am moving to Nashville by myself at 21 years old.
Yeah. So what was that like change? Like how do those jobs differ per se? Like, like an average day, like I'm just going to assume going into Nashville, you're going to be exponentially busier. There's just more to do.
Yeah. I mean, I will say this is like the training is so much different. So like the academy was 24 weeks long. So, I mean, they have their own academy. So you're in there for 24, did I say months? 24 weeks.
Yeah.
Academy. You come out and you hit the street with like a field training officer for 3 or 4 months, and then, go at it. And so the way that those districts and zones are broken up there within the police department, that's all bidding on seniority. So when you get your first beat, you're not going anywhere good. Right.
Yeah.
So like I was in the North Precinct, which is like the hottest zone.
Isn't that funny how that works? Like, hey, you have the least experience. Go to the worst place.
Yeah. And so, so it was broken up. Like the zones kind of look like a pie sliced in the city. Mm-hmm. And so your call number, like there was the 10s, the 20s, and the 30s. So you would be like, 310 or 312 would be your radio call sign for that night or whatever. And so the 10s were the closest to the city, and then the 20s, and then the 30s got more rural in the county. So where do you think I went out of the gate? I was in the 10s, dude. And so our precinct North Precinct set here, and there was a housing project probably, you could throw a rock and hit it, and it was nicknamed Dodge City. And I mean, there was multiple times where we'd be coming out of roll call and, shots being fired out of Dodge City because they were over there fighting each other. So, I mean, that was an eye opener.
Yeah.
And it was obviously fun being that young and being out there,
right?
Running and gunning and policing. But yeah, it opened a whole new eye to a whole different world that I had no idea existed.
Right.
Did you go from there to the TBI?
No. So in Nashville, obviously I was a beat cop for a while, and then I got into it was called the Flex unit. So it was like a street level crime suppression unit. So we didn't answer calls. We were like a 6-man team, and unmarked cars. And so we just had assignments like, hey, we're having a lot of burglaries over here, lots of drug sales over here coming in. We've got, gang violence over here. So we would just hit that, and then working that, we would help the bigger drug units on search warrants as like extra manpower. And so they would come across, like they'd seize money and there'd be counterfeit cash in the money. And if you seize counterfeit money, you would take it downtown to the Secret Service to turn it over. And so I got a relationship with the Secret Service office there. They were like, hey, you'd be good with us, man. Why don't you apply? And they were on me forever to apply. And I finally did and got hired with the Secret Service out in Nashville.
Wow. So is that where you stayed in the Nashville area, or?
Again, the way the Secret Service works is they need the most people. They call it the big three. So it's like New York, LA, and Miami. So usually all new agents that get hired either go to those three offices. Like, well, I get picked up and there just happens to be an opening in Knoxville, and they wanted to keep me in district. So like, it was like, I should have went and bought a lottery ticket that day, because I got assigned to the Knoxville district, which was a supervisor plus 3 agents. So it was like, and we cover everything from, at that point, from Chattanooga to Johnson City in East Tennessee. Yeah.
So I guess my ignorance, and I'm assuming a lot of people, you hear Secret Service,
Yeah.
the first thing you think of is the president or, high ranking government officials. What on, I guess I'll call it a more local level, which you could have gotten moved around, but what does the Secret Service kind of typically do in a more local, not necessarily like protection role?
Well, what most people don't realize is the Secret Service was initially founded, I think my dates are going to be off, like 1865-ish, for combating counterfeit money, because the Confederacy, every state had their own currency. So they were making fake notes and passing them all around. So that's how was when they first, then after Lincoln's assassination is when the protective branch. So it's still the only federal agency that has a 2-prong separate role.
Okay.
So locally, it's counterfeit money, check fraud, any type of stuff to do with wire fraud, check fraud, credit card fraud. They get into a whole, there's a plethora of stuff, but counterfeit money, check fraud, counterfeit fraud, or credit card fraud. And then they team up with a bunch of different agencies, and, they're big in, like the child exploitation stuff. Okay. So they
you guys work with like the Marshal Service.
Oh yeah,
for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's tons of task force with Secret Service, FBI, and that kind of
thing. It's funny, we have all these different, it's a similar kind of job, like the military, right? Mm-hmm. Like we have the Air Force, we have the Marines, the Army, the Navy, whatever, all these things. But even the United States, on the police level, because I have a friend that's a U.S. Marshal, but he's not an Air Marshal. And when all the stuff was kind of going down in 2020 and the riots and all this stuff, and he had got kind of sent off. He's in kind of a supervisory role, but he's like, well, they attacked a courthouse, so we have to go there now. Yeah. All the other stuff was kind of nope, we don't do that. But now it's federal property, federal building. Now there's so many levels to this stuff that we don't realize. I honestly probably couldn't tell you. I had any idea that the Secret Service was involved in counterfeiting, any of that kind of stuff. I don't know if I've ever heard that, or at least I didn't remember it if I did. So
yeah, and they're big into the cyber crimes too. So intrusions, when there's big hacking, stuff like that. They were really intricate in the dark web and that stuff with Silk Road and all that kind of stuff. So
is that a super technical, tech kind of job? Because feels like
those dudes, when I was in DC, man, some of those units, the capabilities they have and just the brains are insane.
Well, so I'm thinking of you, and you're you seem like a very physical, don't want to sit still, So how is that going into something that's probably not so much kind of what got you into that role? You know what I mean? Was it a more, I don't want to say sedentary, but just a different type of situation?
Well, that's the great thing about the Secret Service is when I learned going through the academy is my class was made up of ex-military, ex-law enforcement, former CPAs, school teachers. Like, they don't want this singular
Right.
train of thought. They want to bring in all of these different trains of thought, because in protection, you don't, like, if you get focally focused on one thing, like, you're going to miss all these other holes. So you need these people with different thinking brains to
What was like your daily role though? I think like, because Secret Service, I always think the guy with the freaking earpiece and the suit on, and then kind of like what Dave's saying is like, it seems like it's technology, computer guys. But were you doing that, or like?
I didn't do like. So you have the investigative track and the protective track. So all agents naturally start based on the progression of their mapping as in investigations. And then after you've been in investigation so long, then you get pulled to DC into a protective role, and then you're just doing protective support.
So just protect. Okay.
Right. And then you kind of, the natural progression is if you do protection for so long, then you kind of retire back to the field in investigations. But that whole model has now kind of been upended. They've changed it a lot since I was there.
Did you get into and do the protection?
I got transferred to DC into an investigative component at WFO, the Washington Field Office. But I was within like 6 months of going to protection. But then that's when I pulled the plug and went to TBI, because my wife was in medical school at ETSU.
Okay, that was a question I had. Was
but in DC, like, even though you're in investigations, that's what was so hard, is like, you were supposed to carry this investigative load, but you have tons of foreign heads of state, and you're supporting the president, you're supporting the VP, you're supporting the daughters, like, when I was there, Obama's daughters, like, you were supporting. I mean, at any given time, there's 20, 30 foreign heads of state in town that the Secret Service is providing protection for. So you're like, I never got to do any investigations in DC, like, because every day you're standing post here, you're doing motorcade routes over here, you're doing transportation security here. Like, it's like every day I was somewhere different doing some form of protection.
All I can think because that's what I was wondering is, what kind of role did you fill there? And all I could think of, like, because we talked about this, like, you were talking, and I find it funny that you were like, like coaching and doing CrossFit, and like, you've always got to be turned on and like this heightened state. But like, when I'm reading your bio and I'm thinking about things that you've done, like, what is that like? Like, all I could think of yesterday is like, when you go you travel by car, right? You go for a 6-8 hour drive. And for some odd reason, like, people always say they're really tired, but it's like that heightened sense of awareness and alert. You're like watching for cars, you're paying attention to this, like, you're all these different things. Like, what is that like in a protective role of the Secret Service? Like, is it just so just like draining, you know what I mean? Like, you're so like on high alert. Like, what does that do to you, like, physically and mentally?
Yeah. I mean, it is a grind physically, because I mean, I guess I should say that it's broken down and compartmentalized into so many overlapping positions. I would say that the most like mentally and physically taxing thing is like the actual physical ring of protection on the protectee, which they call the detail. I mean, that's just, so I mean, like, you're making the box on the protectee wherever he's going, you're following him. So obviously with like a high level, like the president or VP, like, the security net is so massive. Like, there's so many overlapping parts. Where it gets really taxing is like every year at the United Nations gathering in New York, all Secret Service agents, like, it was like red letter blocked off on the calendar. Like, you couldn't take vacation because like they sucked every available person up there, and you're protecting everybody from, the king of Swaziland, literally, to Pakistan, Afghanistan, like the top tier people in the country, right? So when you get in that like medium ground of a protectee where their threat level is like at a medium, like, you don't get the same protective assets as you get with the higher threat level. And so like, you're kind of it, dude. Like, you got a 4-car motorcade, and you're
responsible potentially for their life,
and like, you're at their schedule.
Yeah.
So like, if he's an early riser and like wants to go for a run, like, you're going for a run with them. Like, you're with them from the time they wake up to the time they go to bed. I mean, there's overlapping shifts, but it's
I feel like I'd be terrible at that job. I don't know if it's ADHD or something, but I would right in the heat of the moment, I'd start thinking about what I'm going to eat for breakfast tomorrow. Or, you're just things I have to do. Like, you can't do that. Like,
you just have a backpack with all your essentials that you're going to need for the day.
I'm just saying, in my mind, I would be thinking about what I'm going to be for Halloween 2 years from now, And it's like,
no,
you can't.
What if you don't? Sorry. What is your take on what happened to
I knew that was going to come up.
Did you?
I don't have any facts.
Not facts. Yeah. So like I've just heard because no, with what happened to President Trump, like obviously you hear like there's all the, well, it was it was this political party that did it because they wanted to get rid of him. Oh, it was own. It was for show. And then I've listened to some different podcasts of people that have maybe been, I can't remember if they were in Secret Service or not, but it was more like a lack of manpower. It was a lack of, it just happened. It wasn't, probably some great, huge conspiracy theory potentially, but it was like, I mean, do you have any kind of thoughts or takes on that with having been in that role?
I mean, I would just say that there was a hole that was missed in the security planning, but like I said, without being there and kind of knowing how the site plan went, I wouldn't. Yeah. But obviously, everybody knows something went wrong, right? So, there was an overlap somewhere that didn't get filled.
Sorry, go ahead.
Did you have like a kind of like really strong sense of responsibility? Like you were saying, like growing up, you had probably, maybe it stemmed from the like raising animals and stuff. Did you like have almost like a guttural, like nothing is happening on my watch, or like where you just felt very connected? Like, could that, I feel like that could potentially help keep you focused. You know what I mean? Like in those points that Ben was making about,
I mean, you definitely didn't want something to happen to your protectee while you're working. So, I mean, I think like everybody I ever worked with was super locked on. I mean, it was, especially like if you're in the building or somewhere, like it's, pretty chill. But like once you get in a car, like the game changes because you don't know what's coming from where. Right. So, I mean, you're really turned on to.
Well, and I think like you're doing that for a reason. Like your job is protecting someone because there's a potential risk to their life.
Right.
Like no one's following me around to like worry what happens to me because I'm fine.
Right.
But so, that's a really like interesting space to be in. And so you said because that was one of the questions I had was what led you to kind of leave that and then transition into the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation?
Yeah. So when you sign up with, I think most federal agencies, but especially the Secret Service, one of the first things you sign is an employment relocation agreement. So like they can move you at any point in time for any reason, like period. So, I mean, I was working here, shouldn't have had another 2 or 3 years left here before I hit that protective track. And my boss calls me one night sitting over here in Powell, and he's like, I don't know how to tell you this, man, but you just got your transfer number cut. You're going to D.C. You've got to
piss off.
Yeah, you've got 60 days to report. And I was like, what? And so Lynn, my wife, had she was always wanted to be a doctor, so she had really been working hard at getting into ETSU's medical school. And so, I mean, we go to D.C., we make the best of it. We get up there, and she worked at Georgetown in their cancer research for a while and then ends up getting accepted to ETSU. So she comes back down, and I spent another like 6 or 7 months up there. And where I had been here, I had really good connections with local law enforcement and TBI, and was able to just get super lucky. And they had a position opening up in Johnson City, and I was able to, it was perfect because ETSU, and just came right over there. Yeah.
It's crazy how the timing for you of these things, like it's obviously, you said like buy the lottery ticket thing, but it's like when preparation meets opportunity, like you obviously put yourself in these situations to deserve the opportunity. But I mean, that's it is pretty cool that the timing worked out that way. And so then going into this now how is this? I mean, so we've gone local, big city, Secret Service and all that, and now you're into the Bureau of Investigation. Like what was your role there, I guess?
I was in the drug investigative division, so we covered, drug investigations. Probably one of the best law enforcement gigs I've ever had. Like TBI is one of the best, like in my opinion, one of the best law enforcement agencies, federal or state, in the country, man. They're awesome.
What makes it the best?
Man, they take care of their people. They really, like, especially where I was, the supervisors really gave a lot of autonomy to the agents to, like, make critical thinking decisions. And, well, I don't know, what do you think? Like, instead of saying, you know, having a micromanaging role. And it was just so fun. I mean, it wasn't like, you know, Wild West, go do what you want. Like, they were, I don't even like to call them supervisors. They were leaders, man. Like, they had that.
Like, you're part of a team.
Yeah. Like,
you
you
might have been the
respect
captain
them.
of the team.
You didn't want to let them.
Yeah,
you didn't want to let them down. Like,
right.
So you're not going to do something that you're not supposed to do. But they were just. It was great. It was a lot of fun.
Did you choose for the drug investigation?
No. So when they open, it's for specific positions, and that was what was available. And I've always wanted to do that.
Well, so you said something earlier on when you were talking about being in the local department. You're like, well, I had friends that were going to medical school and they were being pharmacists. And then I had friends that were, you know, you mentioned the opioid epidemic. Right. And so that clicked in my head of like, was that the start of something to come where you just had the, like, I've seen what this can do. I need to do my part to stop or to help.
There's just something in my brain that loves any, like, just subcultural, like, thing, and the drug world was just always something like I wanted to get in it, infiltrate it, figure it out, think like they think, and obviously help combat what's being brought in.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answered your question, but
yeah. Well, I mean, that if I mean, just working backwards, like you had like your family and your school, which was also your family. You had your football team. You had, like, that seems to be like a theme of your, like, I'm going to connect to this thing or this group and I'm going to get in deep and I'm going to, you know, whatever I can glean from it or whatever I can do to help provide whatever. Were you actually working like undercover?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So like there wasn't a lot of, I mean, it's got to the point where technology is to the point where, like, undercover work isn't as prevalent anymore, but, like, there is still those niche cases that need it. And I loved it and got the opportunity to do a couple, and it was off to the races. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Are there any, like, TV shows? I know it's weird. I love drug enforcement TV shows. They kind of show it the most realistic. You know,
The Wire was real.
The Wire.
That's very technically correct, and, like, as far as the way that they would run. I mean, obviously the illegal law enforcement stuff is not, but like the legal way that they did stuff and the way that they ran cases is pretty.
That's awesome. I have a friend whose kid got in some trouble, and they actually kind of solved the case through Snapchat. Yeah. It was like the coolest thing to watch. I mean, it was sad to watch, of course. Right. It's my friend's kid. But yeah, it was just like, wow, like, you know, I never really thought they could do that or they were allowed to do that. But I mean, they had all this evidence from 5 different people. It was all laid out on Snapchat. You're like, God damn.
I mean, people will implicate themselves in a lot of stuff if they're not smart enough to pay attention to what they're doing. Everything is
the digital footprint now more than ever is expansive.
It's funny. You like, I thought of similar. The first thing that popped in my mind was Donnie Brasco. Oh, yeah. I have no idea why. Love that movie. Like, that's literally what I thought of, and I was like, so good. Man, like, that's like, I've seen the movie. I've listened to him on Rogan and stuff, and that just started down the, like, mental rabbit hole of, like, what was that like? Kind of having to turn it on and off.
I loved it.
Like, did you? Yes. It wasn't because I wondered, like, how hard was that? Like, you're like an actor, but not really, right? Like, they say cut, it's 5 o'clock, we're going home, but you're like in character so deep trying to do this thing, and then you're like, I got to shut it off now, but then also probably not all the way because you're not like completely separating and going home for the day. You might be going home for the day, but like.
Yeah, my wife hated it because I had this one really long-term case, and, like, I would get phone calls 2, 3, 4 a.m. like all the time.
Did you ever feel sympathy for the people and, like, want to kind of back off a little bit? Or
only one case, kind of, because I kind of
got a little too close.
No, I didn't get too close. They were just like felt like dudes I grew up with.
Yeah, you know? That's tough, man.
But
wrong place, wrong time, a few
Yeah.
bad decisions. And like, oh crap.
Yeah.
Like there they are.
Well, they just couldn't get away. I mean, there some of my most memorable fun cases were at the TBI.
So you've said fun a couple times. What makes a case fun, or what made a case fun?
I like one particular one. Like I love, obviously, like I said, I'll work circles around anybody. And there was this particular group in Kingsport, and they had been there for 8 or 10 years. Multiple law enforcement agencies had tried to infiltrate them, like just unbreakable. Like 10 years worth of selling probably hundreds of kilos of crack cocaine, and they were just super smart. And I don't know when I got the case. It was shortly after I got there, and started working with the locals in Kingsport, and had flipped this one informant and started doing buys from them and just worked up. And I mean, it ended up being a 1.5 year long case. I mean, we did wiretaps on their phones. Like it was, I mean, multi-state, and we dismantled. I mean, they all got 20 years in federal prison. Like we took them from the top to the bottom, and it was probably one of the most memorable parts of the case. Was this dude, the head guy, had, like I said, probably average of 60 grand a month is what he'd been making over this, 4 to 5 years. And he had all these cars, like tons of cars, and he would paint them all white with white rims because of cocaine, right?
Oh, okay.
And they lived in Arkansas and Forest City, so just outside Memphis. So all the dope would come from out there, and they'd make a trip like twice a month with mules to bring all this cocaine back to Kingsport. So we take the case down. He was the last one that we could find because all his cronies got picked up, and then he was out there, so he kind of went into hiding. Well, we knew from informants that he was building a new house in Forest City. So we worked with IRS, and the special agent in Johnson City had got seizure warrants for all these cars. There were like 14 vehicles and then 2 houses. So we fly to Memphis, go over to Forest City to go serve these seizure warrants. So we go out to his house, and he has been picked up since then, so he's in federal holding. So we go to the house and with a search warrant, and we go in, and his girlfriend's there, and we find this safe, and she didn't have the combo, but it was taped to the side. So we get access to the safe, and there's this like literally looks like a jailer's key of car keys, like inside the safe with like every like so methodical, like the almost like a dealership writable tag on there with like the year, the model, and the VIN number. So the IRS agent's going, yep, that's on this search warrant or this seizure warrant. Yep. So he gets all those keys. We can't find the cars. So the house he lived in was here. The new house was in the same cul-de-sac, and it was still under construction. But through informants, we had photographs of the house over time. And so we're over there looking, and he had so many cars on the end of the house, and one of the photos was like an opening for a big garage, like a 2,000 square foot garage to house all these cars in. Well, the door's not there anymore, and the whole house is like in siding, or like it's got fresh siding on it and fresh paint. And so we're like, where are these cars? Like we looked everywhere. And so I was just like, hand me that key ring. So I just start hitting the alarm button on all the fobs, and nothing's happening. Then we get to one, and we hear the car alarm going off inside the house.
That's wild.
So we had to like spin and go to federal court in Arkansas and get a search warrant for that house.
Yeah.
Go back, and it was like almost like textbook, like narco trafficking. Like he had parked all those cars inside the house that was like being built. Like it didn't have sheetrock, and hid them all. Like had the contractor come and build walls around.
Like around
parking lot. So they were all in there, all 14 cars. It was insane. It was the like coolest thing I've ever seen. Cool. Like literally they were touching inside there. Like he had packed them all in.
If only people that had the capacity to do these things put that to good use.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like these criminal, right? Like you're talking about the cyber stuff and doing that. And then What if you would have put your mind to something productive to society?
Yeah.
Like, you could probably be just as successful and wealthy and not be in prison.
Yeah, and he had HUD approved rental houses as a long-term, like, major drug organization. Like, he had 5 or 6 HUD approved rental houses, like governmentally approved rental houses.
Wow.
It's crazy.
So after the TBI, you went to international protection. Correct?
Yeah. So I'll kind of tell you how that works, right?
Yeah.
So
As much as you can, because we're really curious.
So we were like, all through this process, we were like, maybe Lynn's will, because I don't know if you know how medical school, like where you match to go to residency works, but it's like a lottery, right? You put your top in and they rank you, and then you get a letter that says you're going here. So we were somewhat hoping for Vandy so I could stay in the state with TBI. But she got University of Alabama at Birmingham, which is an absolutely incredible GI program. So looking long term, it was great for us to get there. So I'm literally sitting at this dinner, and she opens her letter, and it's like, we're going to Birmingham. And I'm like, okay. So in my mind, I'm like instantly trying to pivot, right? Because I'm like, can't stay with the TBI. I'm not going to live apart from my wife for 4 years. So I called my former boss here with the Secret Service, because he had retired, and started working for this high net worth guy's executive protection. And so I call him. I'm like, hey, dude, I need a job, man. Like, this is what's going on. He was like, give me a day or two. So they had a guy that had gotten sick and couldn't work. So I filled his shoes for like one trip. It was out west in California. And then it just took off from there, because I was a young guy. Most of the guys that would take that on are retired, and so they don't like the international travel as much. So I just kind of like naturally fell into that role. And he was, the guy we worked for was a big philanthropist, and so went to not so great places. So spent a lot of time in Cambodia. Where else? Up in northeastern Colombia, around the Venezuelan border, when all that conflict was breaking off. We were over there. Northern Iraq, Erbil, Syria, like some pretty gnarly spots. But it was.
So is this like private contracting?
Well, it was direct. So kind of the way the private protection world's broken up is like, you have companies that have guys that people reach out to hire. So you work for this company, right? But we worked directly for him. So it was a lot better of a situation, because we were privy to everything that was going on, and trips and that kind of thing. Yeah.
How did that compare to when you were doing like Secret Service? Like, that's something I wondered, because I feel like I didn't know what you obviously did in Secret Service, what that role was, but I think of like, you know, if you're doing certain protection, certain people, it's probably like very structured in that, like, there's only so many places these people are going to go. It's probably a little bit more of a controlled environment. But now, like you just said, you're like, well, I'm with this group of people and we're going to go to Cambodia. Like, it's a little different, like defending your house as opposed to like, you know, like how do those two things compare?
Well, asset wise, not as many assets as you obviously get with the government, but like Secret Service, you flew somewhere, you were riding in the back of the plane next to the toilet. You know, with this gig, you're flying business class or flying on a private jet. So it's like travel was a whole lot more cushy. Assets were not as great, but you also have to like look at it as like, most of the people this guy walked by didn't even know who he was.
Right.
It was more of a, what am I looking for? Ransom. Because if they know you, like these small countries, they kidnap and want ransom. So it's more of that. So we would work, we'd do advanced trips before he would go and meet up with local security outfits. And
would you just go kind of like this so no one could tell?
Just plain clothes.
Do you think you can pick those out when you're at an airport? You know what I mean? You tell they can.
Oh, yeah, easily. But, yeah, we would just go in and pick up, like, hire local security outfits that knew the area. Like, when we went to Colombia, we worked hand in hand with the federal police. So, like, we had this convoy everywhere we went with these guys on dirt bikes. It was crazy. Like, one dude driving, one dude on the back with a vest on holding an MP5, like, just cruising us in the motorcade, like wherever we wanted to go.
Like a movie.
Yeah, literally.
Like literally like what you see.
Yeah, I mean, we were literally cruising up hillsides next to like Pablo Escobar's old house. Like the guy I'm riding with, like, yeah, that was Pablo's cousin's house. So that was his uncle's place. Like he bought that for this guy, and like it was wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It was fun.
Was it the same? Did you work with or for the same person the whole time?
Yes, the whole time.
So how many years did you do that?
I started with them in 2018, and then it bled over in just past COVID. COVID kind of crushed his international schedule because, I mean, you couldn't, because he would host events and large gatherings, and couldn't do that during COVID.
Yeah.
So that's kind of when I pivoted.
So it was a good amount of time. Did you start to develop any kind of like, I'd say personal relationship, obviously still being in a professional role, but like, again, very different, right? If you're in Secret Service and you're protecting this person one time, another person another, you're probably still only getting so close, but you know, you're on a private jet next to this person. Like, I mean,
it's really like a dual role. Like I told my wife, it was more of like 50% protection, 50% like assistant. Like, hey, I forgot my Dove soap. Can you run down? Like, can one of you guys run and get that? Oh, you know, get the bags in the room, get the food ordered, you know, get the reservations of the restaurant. So it was like kind of like logistics more than
But those are some good meals.
Oh, dude, so good. Yeah.
What was a big takeaway from that role? Like, I think of this person, like obviously not knowing their background or how they got there. Like I'm assuming, and maybe they had already gotten past it by the point you're with them, but there's got to be this surreal, like, when I travel the world, I need to take an army with me because of who I am and what I do. Like, what was something that you took from that whole experience or from that person? Like, was it just kind of a regular person that just happened to have a big role in the world? Yeah.
And it was like, I came into it, like, I mean, he's been doing it for way long before, 20 years. Yeah. I mean, he had protection for that long, so it was just, he treated everybody, you know, like family. I mean, it was super humble dude. Like,
just a regular person for the most part.
Yeah, and I mean, it was funny because we always joked about it, but I think it was just consistency. But he always ate McDonald's wherever country he went to, but it was because it was just like he knew what to expect. He knew he wasn't going to get sick.
Oh, right.
You know, like. Yeah. So like we knew his order for every meal.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of funny.
Yeah,
like,
it was funny.
Very wealthy private jet. Like, I'll get a Big Mac because I'm probably not going to get
quarter
food.
Pounder.
I'm not going to get food poisoning.
Yeah.
Or some sort of.
Well, it was it. You knew parasite. What to expect. It's kind of the same everywhere.
Yeah. Just something I guess the average person doesn't have to think about. Right.
No.
I don't know if you have more questions.
Yeah. No. So
that thing in particular.
We can kind of lead into.
Well, I was going to say, so then a switch, right? Like we talked about that before when we were referencing someone else that we both know, of like this very dramatic switch of like, you did this thing, you know, for a while, you know, high level, whatever. And then it's like very different, like went to a completely different field, right? So from that transition, you went into... I'm trying to think of how I wrote, but like craftsman, like you're doing like restorations and things like that. Like what led to like, okay, you said COVID and that kind of winding down to like, well, this is the next step for me.
Well, I guess we kind of step back to childhood again. Is like my aunt and uncle owned probably one of the largest under roof lumber yards on the East Coast in Claiborne County. So I worked in some form of construction in between college and on college break. So they had a truss shop. So they manufactured trusses for homes all over Northeast Tennessee, Virginia, down to Knoxville. So I've always kind of had that construction hand. And so even before the executive protection thing kind of wound down, like I'd be home for, you know, we'd go out for a month or a couple weeks. And then I'd be home for a couple weeks, maybe a month, right? So I was obviously bored. And so there's only so much working out you can do, right? So I was good at fixing stuff. So I'm like, hey, there's this Nextdoor app. I'll just start like doing handyman stuff just to like have something to do so I'm not bored. So I started doing that. And it would roll into bigger stuff. Like if I had a longer amount of time, I've always liked doing tile. So I did tile work. So I started doing backsplashes for people. And then it grew to bathrooms, right? So when COVID hit and the executive protection fell away, I just was like, I've got all this client base. I got all these good reviews. I'm just going to pivot this thing into bathroom remodels. So I did bathrooms for a year and a half. And I had a really good friend that was a licensed contractor there. He kind of took me under his wing and mentored me like codes and stuff like that. And so as the bathroom renovation, it would grow like, hey, we want to take this wall out and do this. Well, I'm not licensed. Like, I can't do that. Well, my buddy Dave would let me use his GC license. Hey, he'd come over. This is what you need to do here. This is what you need to do here. He'd come back and look at it, and we'd have it inspected by the city. And so after kind of getting a knowledge base there, I'm like, oh, why don't I just get my own license? So I sat for the Home Builders Board in Alabama and passed that. And so then it went from, obviously y'all know COVID, people were spending money out their head and ears for remodeling because they didn't have anything else to spend money on. Right. So it blew up during COVID. I mean, we were doing massive kitchens, big bathrooms. So bathrooms and kitchens were like the bread and butter. Yeah. That's where my safe space is for knowing what's going on. And Birmingham has a massive historic home district. Mm-hmm. So that's what I first started working on, was historic homes. So I just kept it that way because guys that do new construction don't know the pitfalls of working on an old house. They don't understand what's behind the wall. So they would price it this way, get your house torn apart, and then be like, we found all this stuff. Like, it's going to be 20 grand more. Well, that's not what you told us, right? So sure. We were able to build this model of historic home renovations because we can come in and say, hey, like, we know this is here. We know what's behind here. We've seen it 100 times, like, and this is what it's going to cost to do it. And it just kind of took off word of mouth.
I feel like,
sorry, go ahead.
No, okay.
Step on your.
You're good. I feel like, renovating is one thing, but restoring is totally different. Yeah. Like, how nervous were you for, say, your first paid project?
I had such good subcontractors that, like,
you weren't scared of failure.
No, because that's what's great about buildings. Like, you can redo anything, like if the client's not happy with something, like at a certain point, you know what I mean? Yeah. But my subs were with me the entire time. I had the same painter, finish carpenter, plumber, electrician, HVAC guy, the whole.
You mean you had your own subculture team?
This is it.
Again?
Yes. Yeah. And that was what was great. It's like, y'all, he's known me for a long time. You've known, like, I'm a very, like, type A, very OCD, and like they knew, like, I didn't have to stand over their shoulder.
Right.
Like, they knew how I wanted it done.
And that was kind of where the direction of the question I was going to ask a little bit is, like, so still similar in that, like, type A, detail oriented, but what about that, like, that shift? That, like, you just spent X number of years in law enforcement on all these different levels, all these things, like dealing high pressure, high leverage situations, very bad people in certain instances. And now you're like going into some grandma's house and you're going to retile it. And, like, had you just seen the other part of that to the end and you were just like, I'm good now? Like, cause you didn't go into like, well, I'll go back to TBI or I'll go back to a local, you were just like, I'm good. You closed that door and you moved on.
I've always, like, changed, but also, like, challenged, and I think you can see kind of an underlying thing through a lot of the career changes was family. Like, I grew up, like, families first, like, and so, like, I wanted to support my wife. So I wasn't going to be this dude that was like, hey, go to Joey Medical School. I'm going to stay up here in DC and do this thing. So, it's just like, I didn't care as long as I was with my wife and happy, like, I can do anything to make money. People that are so scared to stay in one job forever just because they get a paycheck or not, if they're happy, that's great. But there's so many, like, your potential is so far greater than you think it is. Like,
that's correct. Like, because you asked that kind of before about, like, what makes you like that? Because I feel like that is a common theme in certain, like, what I would call, like, high achievers or people that, like, can be very successful in one thing and then they just take those skills or that same effort, they put it to something else, and they do it again. But, like, clearly we are not all wired that way to just be like, I will shut that door on this thing and without question, I'm going to crush it over here. Like,
I keep thinking walk into the fire, man. That's what you do every time. And then you crush it,
Like, does he save none?
I saved
He
none.
definitely gives all.
I'll put it all out there.
But do you think it was like how you were raised and just like everything, just your childhood in general, or because is it nature nurture? I guess is
I don't like. I've tried to think about that a lot coming into this, and I think like I don't like as a kid, actually like focusing on it, but now as an adult looking back, like seeing like two educators raising three boys, like I like now, like I know money's different now, but it was like we were happy as we could be, and there was probably a very turbulent sea under all that with like how are we gonna like do this, but they did it, and I think they were inadvertently really good role models, to just like it doesn't matter what gets tossed at you, just put one foot in front of the other and keep going.
I love that you say that, man. Like growing up, we didn't have any money. I mean, we were homeless at times.
Yeah.
2 boys, parents worked all the time. I mean, we lived in a tent for months, but like we were so happy, dude. We had so much fun. Like, I don't know, that summer in the tent, man, it was one of my favorite summers ever. I mean, we fished every day, and you really don't need money, man. You just need
happiness,
family and drive and happiness.
It's so easy to lose sight of that. I saw it all this summer. I think we may have talked about it with my kids. Like, you get, I don't want to say stuck, but caught up in the like, houses and cars and vacations and things. And I have teenage daughters, and so that's a whole other thing. But like the happiest I've ever seen my kids was this past summer at like swim meets and swim practice, just all day, every day, outside with their friends, completely indifferent to anything, as long as they had like snacks, water. Like they just, they needed bathing suits. They needed, their clothes didn't matter. There was nothing material about like just the sheer joy of it's 9:30 at night or 10 o'clock almost, getting dark, and they're like in the pool racing with their friends. Like that, you'd think that they were on the best vacation of a lifetime. And I'm like, one, how do I get my brain to get that joy out of such simplistic things? And just like, how do I ever lose sight of that? Like this is literally all they want right now. Nothing in the world would make them happier. It's just crazy. And so, I mean, there's so much stuff. Like, the intro you did, like you mentioned the tattoos. So, well, I guess, are you still doing the construction and restoration? Is that still something?
I've kind of put it on the back burner now just because my wife's getting into a new role here with her medical journey, and we've got Oliver in school. And so, and then we've got the farm, which is a whole nother full-time job. So maybe I'll kick it back up at some point. Don't really have a projection on that. I'm keeping my licensure updated, but
just in case.
Yeah.
So how does the tattoos, right?
So
I was trying to segue into like that was something that kind of just got glossed over. Book in the Library of Congress. Like where does that? I mean, I feel like this is probably definitely more your area of expertise.
No, I mean, like what
mine.
made you decide to do a book of the history of tattoos?
I'm trying to pinpoint exactly when I got really interested in it. I mean, here in Knoxville, there's Saint Tattoo, which I'm really good friends with Scott Cooper, Doc Cooper, that owns that shop. We've been friends for, since I got my first tattoo there when I was 18. I was still in high school. So, like, I've known Scott for probably 20 years. Anyway, he really got me interested in it, like tattoo history, when I would hang out at the shop there when I was living here with the Secret Service. And it's always in the back of my head. And then probably like 2 or 3 years ago, I started, really reading it and starting to collect more. And then the collecting community is kind of small, so you start getting to know other collectors and starting to figure it out. And the more that you get into the nitty gritty of early American tattooing is just like fascinating. Just the subculture around it and just the grit and determination those guys had to make $1 then is just, it's insane. Like, it's just so interesting. I can't really put a finger on it. Like, I love art. I love tattooing. And you just kind of combine the two and go back to its inception. And it's just,
it was so taboo too. Like, you're a freak. You know what I mean?
But that's what I was going to say. There's places like, I remember when my senior like trip, we'd go to the beach. I'm originally from New England. I was born and raised in Massachusetts. Like, I remember we'd go up and we go to New Hampshire to this beach. And I remember all these kids would get tattoos because you could get them at 18 in New Hampshire. Yep. You couldn't do that in Massachusetts. Like, I'm at a loss for what, if it was like you couldn't do it till you were 21 in the state, or there was something. Like, it was literally like outlawed in certain, like
Yeah.
there is a very, to that point, like, yeah, we've talked about that. Like it's now so socially accepted. Like and I don't mean to disparage, all the soccer moms have a tattoo,
Yeah.
everybody, like for different reasons, like symbolic things. But like, yeah, there was an association with, there's like an actor, I think he's Hispanic, like he's just this mean looking dude in all the movies.
Yeah,
he's just covered in tattoos, and
Danny
you just
Torrentino, is that his name? Torrent.
Danny. Oh my god.
is that, who I'm talking?
Long
Yeah,
hair,
Yeah.
mustache. Yeah.
yeah, but it's just like people just like, that is a bad dude. Like he rides a motorcycle. Like he's up to no good, and it's come so far. But yeah, I can't imagine what it was like. I mean, how far back does the history even go?
I mean, you go like, it gets way far past my basis of knowledge, but I mean, you can trace it back to the Meiji era in Japan. I mean, like it goes, I mean, as far as American,
here in
I mean,
the US.
you're going like, I mean, I've had and seen cabinet cards from the 1860s with guys and girls with full suits. And most of those folks then it was a form of, you're either a performer, so you're in the sideshows or on the Bowery in New York making money, like showing your tattoos to a crowd, or you were doing that and you were tattooing as well. Right. So it was a really underground, heavy subculture.
When do you think that started to change? Like, there was like, and I don't mean change like through the 50s, 60s, where it became a little bit more commonplace, but like to where it is now, where, can you, either of you, I guess that's a question, is like, is there a time, even in your lives where you're like, all of a sudden it just became okay or just more socially acceptable?
I think, go ahead.
No, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's progressed too, just the style. Like if those tattooers could wake up today and see the beautiful art that are on people, it's not just big heavy lines, and also religiously, like it's just way more accepted. You have pastors that have tattoos now, and maybe, but to me, I think the art is a lot of it, just the beautiful roses people are getting, and but I'm sure you would have more knowledge about this.
I mean, I think everybody's got their own opinion, but I mean, just mine purely, I think the real like turn of it being more accepted was like World War I, World War II, the soldiers coming home. I mean, they were getting super heavily tattooed, and it was just starting to become more visual. And I think when something's seen more, it becomes more accepted. And
right.
I mean, I think that's the true like pivot. Now, as far as it is today, like, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that is more accepted now than it's ever been.
Right.
But
yeah, that's fair.
Did it kind of start with Sailor Jerry in that, or did it start over in the East Coast, or is there kind of a battle of like?
I mean, I think like early American, like kind of the godfathers of it per se were Charlie Wagner. He was on the Bowery up in New York, and you've got Percy Waters, who was in Detroit. But I mean, there's so many great early guys. I mean, the West Coast. I mean, any big port town is where your heaviest concentration of guys were, because that's where the money was, because more people, more soldiers, more sailors, like that was kind of where you made your money. And then obviously you had the whole other, I keep using subculture, but a whole other track of guys that were just carnival tattooers. They were tattooed men that made money showing their tattoos off in the sideshow, but they also had a tent where they tattooed patrons at the sideshow. So they traveled all over the country tattooing people in every small town that zigzagged across it.
Yeah, this is a shameless plug real fast. You can go to our YouTube channel, and we have a little short video about you kind of explaining that, and have like a little close-up shot of that carnival. That was really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool to see it in an old tattoo machine and just a book,
It's awesome.
Very cool.
What would I don't want to say motivation for the book, but you're like, okay, I'm going to put this like book together. I'm going to put this, history together. Like, I do feel like in a lot of instances, and again, preparation meets opportunity. Like you just decide like you have a passion for something, you're going to start to pursue it. And then because of the work you put into it, it becomes something. Was there a thing along that path where you're like maybe you were just gathering things for personal, like education, knowledge, benefit, whatever. And you're like, no, this is a cool thing I want other people to have access to.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I've had buddies that have done incredible tattoo history books, way better than what I put out. And just seeing what they did, and, stumbled across this guy Carl Bumpus was his name, and had purchased a piece of flash from another collector of his art. And then one of my buddies, Darren Bray, who's an author, tattoo history researcher, he's also owns an auction house, had at the same time found through a private seller all of Carl's like tattoo possessions. Like when he moved from the shop in the 70s, like he gave it all to a guy, and that guy had it in his garage for 40, 50 years, and Darren finds it and brokers a deal, and it went to the auction. And so I purchased some pieces from the auction, and that kind of sparked it, and to like do as thorough as you can with these guys. There's just not a lot of living family left, and so that's where like the investigative background kind of kicks in. And so I was able to find his grandson, who was almost 80, and I took myself and a buddy of mine who's a videographer and photographer in Birmingham, and we drove 8 hours to his house and interviewed him, filmed it, and he like graciously gave me some early photos of Carl, and then he connected me with his grandson, his nephew, who's like our age. He lived in Florida, and he had his mother's possession. She had passed away, and had this photo album that was like Pandora's box of like early Carl, like family candid photos. Like it's in the book, like him standing in a strawberry field picking strawberries with a tank top on and like his full bodysuit in 1942. Like just incredible shots that were able to go in the book, and then just the stories they told, just to kind of capture like, here's this guy with all these tattoos, but like here's his like real tangible story. And like
there's more to him than that. It's not
Right.
just about, we talked
Right.
about that a little bit with Ben, obviously, with all the tattoos. Like you're more than just
Yeah.
not that there's not a lot of meaning to what those things are, but that doesn't necessarily solely
Right.
define who you are.
So I guess to get back to your story is like, I really wanted to like these buddies of mine that had done these books, like, and seeing the level that they had put it out to. And like Darren kind of like, I can't remember the exact words, but he's like, when I do these, I want like, when I'm dead and gone, for somebody to be able to type in these guys' names and be able to research them. You know what I mean? Like there's a repository somewhere with this guy's story.
Yeah.
So that it can be cited somewhere else,
Right.
Was there any like big unexpected challenges, or any times where you're like, man, this is not worth it?
The only time I got really frustrated was like designing the book, because it's like working with a graphic designer and like doing the layout, and that's when you're kind of like, like, is this worth all this time? But you're so far in at that point, it's like,
You're already
got to
committed.
see it across the line and then get it and it printed and that kind of thing. Yeah.
How does it go from that to the Library of Congress as an art history book?
Well, I pulled an ISBN for it, so you have that in the cover. But Darren was the one that was like, "Hey, dude, you need to get a Library of Congress control number for it, whether they accept it or not. So it's at least cataloged, because they'll catalog, like you can send them a copy of the book, and if they decide to take it in or not, they at least catalog it. So if somebody searches Carl, it'll pop up, and here's this book that was written. Now you just got to go find a copy of it, but there's something that's been written, or they can keep it. And so they decided to hold a copy in-house, which was all I was hoping for, was not expecting. But when I got the email, I was like, man, this is super cool.
I mean, that's a big deal.
It's
I didn't even know that was, I didn't even understand how the Library of Congress worked. And I was like, oh, like I could write a book. Well, not me, but like that's
President
just
actually has to read it and approve it.
It's just such it's such an accomplishment. Like, you set out again with a passion or a desire, and like, that's what I was kind of wondering. Like I was looking at all these things and like time frames and stuff. Often it was like, this for 4 years, this for 4 years, this for 4 years. And I was like, there's almost like this element of like accomplishing a task. Like, so you're a CrossFitter, right? We talked about that a little bit before we started, but like, okay, I'm going to start this thing, and I'm going to go until where I take something to where I feel like it's the farthest that I'm wanting or willing to go in this thing. Not that there's not more there, but it was like, I got out of this experience what I wanted, maybe even a little bit more. I want to start over with something else now. I want a new challenge, you know? And it's just, I think that mindset going into it of like, I'm just going to take this as far as I can take it, is that what gets it into a Library of Congress kind of situation. Like, I'm just going to do this with the utmost passion that I have. And wherever it goes, and I won't be disappointed. But, you know,
I think my wife would definitely attest that like I am like very OCD and get hyper focused on like whatever I'm passionate about. Like I'm locked in to the point of like annoying her to death about it. So I have to be really careful about like how much I talk about something, because I will just.
I was going to ask you about that. Like Lindsay's great. I've met her a few times and she's always been so sweet. But how does that conversation happen with you guys when you're like, babe, I got something new? You know,
it's just not even surprising anymore.
I mean, has she ever said no? Or?
She's most of the time now she's like, how much is it going to cost?
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so I try to find low cost projects now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Low entry level for money. But
well, I feel like that's not even a thing for you too. You could turn it huge even if you had $5 to start it, you know.
Try.
So she's just expecting it every 4 years.
I was going to say every 4 years.
Yeah. Well, now I've got the farm.
He's like the Olympics.
Yeah. Now we've got the property, so I've got plenty of things to keep me busy. So.
Well, you're a father now too.
I
mean, how does that change your risk when you're going into something new?
It definitely makes you think about stuff a lot more thoroughly. So yeah, a lot more thoroughly.
How so?
I mean, you got to obviously look at the financial impact of things, but obviously on the farm now, there's a lot more dangerous stuff to do. So it's like, what's the risk of doing this versus just hiring somebody to do it when I know I can do it myself. But, you know, I want to be there and not be broken for him throughout his life so I can be a good dad.
It's probably, I mean, you've lived the life of 10 men. And do you feel like fatherhood is probably the most extraordinary adventure?
100%, dude. Like, I never put it in context, or I guess you couldn't really rationalize it when fathers would say, like, when you hold your kid for the first time, like, there's nothing that's worth that in your life ever. And it was, like, so true. So true. Just watching him grow, and it's awesome. Nothing compares to it.
Yeah. What do you find most challenging about that role, considering all of the situations and roles and things you've accomplished, now being the father of a 3-year-old? What is the most challenging aspect of that?
He has his dad and mother's strong will. So he's definitely going to be one. He's going to probably live true to, like, I'll outwork you. Yeah. Right now he'll out-talk us and not listen, but I like that aspect of him, you know?
Yeah. He's got conviction, even as a young man.
Yeah, it's his way, or he wants to try everything, you know?
Right.
So we just kind of say, if you can do it, if you feel like you can do it safely, knock it out, you know? Right. Just think about what you're doing.
So to the I say conservation, or, you know, so that's the thing you're into now, right? So you guys made that really cool video I saw the other day. And I think the kind of like catchy part of it is like the beekeeping, but like there's a lot more than that. Like, again, I was going through some social media posts and seeing things about like oak trees and the university. And so I guess kind of a little insight into, you know, what is it that you're doing now exactly? Like, what is it? Is it like a business? Is it a project? Like, kind of just... because even I know Ben probably knows a little bit more about this. I don't really know much about it other than, you know, some stuff I've seen on social media. So,
I mean, we were really lucky in the property that we got. The guy that the previous owners, he was a master gardener. So he really left us like a really cool thing to be able to.
That would stress me out, dude.
Well, it was very stressful at first, because I grew up on a farm, so I can grow vegetables and raise animals, but ornamentals are a whole different, like ornamental plants. I just don't know a lot about. So I mean, he left it to us in great shape and really kind of guided us and had lots of meetings and talked. And so that's kind of one aspect of it that we keep. And my bigger ambition is the like native plants, because we have so much acreage there, and it used to be all grasslands. Like if you look at the 30s and 40s aerial photographs, like it was a ridge with grass and big oak trees and, tons of native species of stuff. And just, I mean, nationally, these open grasslands and savannas are almost extinct just because there's no conservation in them. They just grow into forests and thickets and, smother out all the native species, So like that's one of my goals right now is opening up portions of the woods that have tons of species of oaks that just can't, they're starving for sunlight and they're starving for water because there's so many competing, smaller species of trees and plants in there that are not native or just in overabundance. So just thinning that out and coming back in with native grasses and native plants and just really trying to get the native birds, pollinators,
well, so that's what with not having much of an understanding of this, my first thought was just balance of the ecosystem and making sure that, obviously if there's things that are typically here and now they're not, that's going to change bugs and birds and all of this stuff. But what is the benefit? So I'm thinking well, it's all wildlife. It's all nature. Why is it more beneficial to have this more grassland area than tree overgrowth? Is it because of the suffocation of the other plant species, or
so the native birds feed on all these seeds from wildflowers and coneflowers and the seeds of these grasses, and I mean that's why you see native bird populations hundreds of miles from where they used to be, because there's no natural forage there for them anymore, right? And it's because I love the woods, but it's just kind of taken over to where there's great nesting habitat there for them, right? But there's not forage, there's no food for them. Same thing with deer. So just getting that back and you can really see some of these folks that have done these restoration projects on grasslands and savannas, within a couple years, see native birds coming back that haven't been there in decades,
right?
Because that's where they want to be. They just don't have the resources because the temperatures and the climate is what they would prefer.
What causes it? Is it what would cause the encroachment of the forest as opposed to is it is it something we're doing? I feel like that's what this stems back to, right?
It's just what we're not doing, right?
Okay.
Because, and I'm obviously early in this, I'm no expert, but it's in the early 1900s, there was a lot more farming, right? So you had grazing animals in these grasslands, and we had a lot more. Then they kind of attribute it to the settlers coming here because the Indians would burn. They had prescribed burns. They didn't know why they were burning grasslands, but it was burning off all this underbrush and all this thick non-native species to let the grasses come back in. So as we get into, I guess, the Industrial Revolution, people went to factories to work and they quit working on farms. So all that worked land just grows up.
Well, I hear that's part of the issue in California with the wildfires is that there's no clearing and cleaning of all the underbrush and all the dead stuff. So now you're basically just lining the forest floor with kindling.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, Malibu's on fire.
And that's part of what I'm trying to restore on our properties and what's called an oak savanna, which there's, I think, less than 5% of those left in the U.S. And you have to do prescribed burns on those every 2 years. They won't maintain themselves if you don't. So, and there's state agencies that help with that, and there's grants and funding out there to help do the restoration. But I'm still in the infancy of that.
How do you organize all of this knowledge? You know what I mean? This needs to be every 2 years. The bees need every 2 weeks. Is that all in your mind, or do you have a board? Or
I keep an app for the bees.
App for the bees.
Yeah, I keep.
But there's thousands of species that
I don't know. It's all in my Rolodex, I guess, in my brain.
That's wild to me.
He's let go of football plays.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
drug cartels. Yeah. It's what do we do with the part of our brain that used to remember phone numbers?
I just override it.
Now it's passwords.
Yeah.
What I was going to ask is, how do the bees fit into this? Again, so from, the bee movie and kind of paying attention, understanding that they're a bigger part of our ecosystem than we give credit for. We're just those annoying things that might sting us and my kids are terrified of. But how do they fit into this whole conservation, like wildlife
Like
kind of
I
picture
think-
for you, in the grand scheme, but also for you, like.
I just love them. The more I've learned about them, like they're just like, I think the latest statistics are 1 in every 3 bites of food that we put in our body, a bee has something to do with it. Really? So like, I don't know how far the human population would live in days without bees, without honeybees, or pollinators in general. But there's not a lot of beekeepers anymore that like there's a term called bee having and beekeeping, and I didn't understand that until we got bees. And to manage them properly, it is intense to keep them, like, to help them survive. Right. There's so many diseases now, and it's all in some form or fashion, man-made, like pesticides, herbicides. I saw a guy post on a beekeeping page, a Tennessee beekeeping page, where he had 15 hives and they were all happy one day, and walks out the next morning and every hive had a dead out because the farmer next door decided to do drone spraying and didn't notify anybody, and it killed 200,000 bees. Wow. Like that. So it's
all selfless for you too at this point. You're not selling honey, you're not
That's
selling
what I was
wax.
going to ask, is what it like.
I don't even care.
Is there like a business connected to this?
It's hours of work,
Yeah.
It's like,
if we are able, like, we're not raising the bees or managing the bees for the simple purpose of harvesting honey. If there is a hive that's super strong and overproduces honey and there's excess that we can harvest, that's great. But like right now, I pull off what's in excess and we freeze it. And then when it comes winter, we feed it back to them for winter resources, because their food's better than us giving them, granulated sugar to live on through the winter.
How is this connected to the university? I saw a post that you made.
So that's with the trees.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's what I was meaning.
Yeah, I've just reached out. There's some great PhDs there that specialize in oak savannas and forestry, and they've been a wealth of knowledge, selflessly just talking to me for hours about how to kind of the stages to do it. And he's like, you realize this is a decade-long project, right? And I'm like, yeah, like, I'm not scared of it. Like, it's not going to be easy, but I may fail, but we're going to try. And so that's what that was about.
That's super cool. It's something, so growing up in the Northeast, it's just like farming in general and a lot of that stuff. I guess I was younger, and kind of like when you don't see something, you don't know it exists, but I just noticed that being here, just like around the university and things, like the different farming and the UT agriculture type stuff. Like, I think that's, obviously it's super important, to the point you were saying before about like crafts and tradespeople. Like, there's like a lost art into a lot of things that, like, we're just not very self-sufficient people. Like, I think of that even with myself, right? Like, 2020 happened and people are hoarding groceries and bullets, and it's like, okay, well, that still has a life cycle or a lifespan. Like, if my family had to survive off the land, we would be in big trouble. And I think that stuff is important to instill on future generations. For sure. Because I think we're starting, and obviously very prevalent in your space, of like the downside to a lot of like industrial farming and all of these things, like not just the forest overgrowth, but just the quality of the food, what it's doing to the soil. Like, I'm not super knowledgeable, but I have just enough of a surface knowledge to know like what we thought was really good at a time may have in a window in time been beneficial, but there's downstream effects to all this stuff. Oh, yeah. And we didn't see past the nose on our face to some of that stuff. And we need to like educate future generations, because like it's going to just get worse. Yeah.
It's you can go down a rabbit hole on that. I do it all the time, looking at like there's a whole swing now of different farming practices, and it's amazing to see what they're doing with it and how much more money they're saving. Like, that's what I loved watching was like, we did this for 2 years and we broke even, but after the second, going into the third year, like, we're not buying all these pesticides, we're not buying all these herbicides, we're doing and I'm not into livestock, but we're doing rotational grazing on our farm. We've not bought a roll of hay in 2 years.
Well, that's the argument, right? Like it's cheaper, it's cost effective. We have to mass produce for hundreds of millions of people. Like, well, we're the most overweight country on the planet. Like, I think we got plenty of food.
Yeah, we could.
We need to distribute it better. There's some governmental and there's some other stuff behind that, but the sheer quantity of food is not the issue. I read a book called The Third Plate. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it talks a lot about that. I think he was like a reporter or an author that started to dive into like all these different things of like how we're feeding animals like they're natural. The one that just sticks on my head was like geese and feeding them like chestnuts, and because there's foie gras, probably mispronouncing that, but it's like goose liver. And it is like this incredible like delicacy that people pay like astronomical amounts for. But there was like this one farm that it was like top tier above and beyond. And it was like, yeah, the geese just roam around and we feed them the food they're supposed to eat. It's like fatty liver. So in most places, they literally like apparently stuff a tube in the goose's throat and force feed them to over fatten them, and then they store fat around their liver so then they can. But they were like, no, it's chestnuts and it's these things and it's this natural diet, and this is like the highest quality of this product on earth. And it's like it's made the way the bird was supposed to live.
Right. Yeah. I just get into watching this like soil and the way that like that type of farming is like they'll have 2 fields. There's all these YouTube videos. This, and I think this is the right term, like a regenerative farm over here, and then this like traditional what we think about farming, and they'll take a spade over here to this regenerative farm. I mean, he can push that thing 7-8 inches in the ground, pull it out. The soil's nice and silky. There's tons of different plant species growing there, tons of insects that help it all. And you go over here to this traditional, I mean, the soil is so hard.
It's red clay.
Yeah, they can't, like the soil is so bad because the farmers are not allowing it to do naturally what it does.
They've stripped it of everything
They've stripped
valuable.
it. It has no nutritional value unless they put it in it.
Right. So now you're just pumping more chemicals on top of the food. Yeah, that's a rabbit hole I could.
Yeah, I know.
That's getting into like the CrossFit and fitness and paleo. Like it's an interesting, like it was a gateway drug to like, what is all this other stuff like nutrition and things that we're eating and putting on our bodies, in our bodies, like all that kind of chemical stuff. It's a big thing for us, my family, our, you know, how we raise our kids and stuff like that. So I find that stuff fascinating. So anybody that's kind of taking the bull by the horns is like, can we just, modern technology is nice, but it doesn't, the other stuff worked for a really long time for a reason. Like we shouldn't completely abandon it. So
we got to have Lindsay on one day to talk about GI stuff because she's a friggin' expert.
She'd love it.
I'm sure that kind of, you guys have a lot of interesting conversations about, you know, soil grown plants, and, you know, she agrees with you.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a nice little
symbiotic. Right?
So I guess that is an interesting, is there ever kind of a back and forth because of coming from a more, what's the word I'm looking for? But just from the educational path towards health, where yours is kind of more this holistic, like self-taught.
Lindsay, like I don't want to speak for her, but I mean, she's very much like wants to correct things via diet.
Yeah.
And that if the patient's not so far gone from that, you know, medication's kind of the last.
Right.
You know,
that's kind of what I was alluding to. I know a couple people, like we have some members here. And
kind of like diet and lifestyle changes before dosing.
Well, there's just a different thought process. There's like the, you know, 90-year-old grandmother that says like some sunshine, water, and exercise will fix most things. And it's like, well, no, we make a pill for everything. And so there can be a little bit of a, depending on how you got to the end, or your mindset. So I wondered if that was ever, I mean, obviously if you're married, you probably have some common ground on stuff.
Yeah.
So
she ever made you do a parasite cleanse?
No.
Dude, I had a worm in my doo-doo. Have you ever done a parasite cleanse?
No.
Bro, you got to do it. You got to ask her for me if that's legit.
I'll
because
ask her.
Is it like the charcoal?
Freak you out. No, it's like wormwood or oregano. And me and my girlfriend did one, man. And like, oh my God.
Do you ingest all of this stuff?
Yeah,
and
It's
then
just like
pushes everything.
essential oils and just the crap that comes out of you, dude. It's like, wow. It is very. I'll bring you some.
Well, think of like the pipes in your house, right? Like you turn on your thing and like water comes out and you're like, yeah, it looks fine. But if you ever like went down under your house and checked the pipes, now think of the 20 something feet,
right,
and the 40 something years of like what is actually passing through there and kind of stuck on the edges.
Bro.
I think of that every time I clean the drain at my house because my daughters and wife get it clogged. I'm like, this is the inside of some people's digestive tract, and it stinks and it's gross.
It's alarming.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that I'm going to jump on board for giving myself diarrhea, but I mean, we can maybe talk about it.
Try it
another time. A question that like we've asked each other, Ben asked me first is, where do you see yourself at age 60? You've had all of these different things and maybe you don't know, cause it seems like there's a life cycle to a lot of this stuff, but if you could maybe picture it as to how you'd want it to be, what is Adam's life at 60 years old look like?
It's a good one. I don't know that it'll, I guess like talking about Oliver is just like, I'd hope at 60, like we'll be through the teenage years of where they don't, where we can be best buddies and be hanging out and doing stuff as a family, and maybe he'll enjoy working on the property. And if not, just getting to hang out with him as an adult would be awesome, and have a good relationship with him.
Yeah.
Just being around family.
Do you see yourself retired, or are you still going to be out there working?
Y'all have already heard my story. I don't know.
I was going to say, how could you even ask that?
Yeah.
That was a rhetorical question.
I was like, he's not
Very
retiring.
rhetorical question.
I'll be doing something.
Are your parents and grandparents still out there working?
My mom and dad. Well, my mom's retired. My dad just retired, but they're always piddling with something. They kind of got busy hand syndrome like me.
Yeah. Well, very cool, man.
Cool, man.
I don't know if you have other. We basically, in a roundabout way, touched on everything. Like you've had such a fascinating life, like just so many things. And like I said, when we first met here earlier, I was like, well, I knew a bit of the book, the conservation. It's like, wow, that's like really interesting. And then you dive down more, and it's just all these life experiences. It's very eye opening because there's probably so many people out there that like have a really cool story. They just need an opportunity to tell it. And I guess so. I wasn't intending on asking this question, but like from all of these different, experiences and things that you've done, what is something that maybe you would like, Oliver at 3 now, like what is something that you would like him to like hear, or a lesson that you've learned that like maybe 20 years from now, when you're 60, you can be like, I said this when you were 3 and look, you did it, or, whatever, like a message in a bottle to future Oliver. I'm just sort of.
I think just I always think about this with all the experience, like coming from small town, going to all these big towns, interacting with hundreds, if not thousands, of different people is like, and this is like not cliche, but just I've dealt with everybody from every economical status to every, you know what I mean? Like just treat everybody the way you want to be treated until they give you a reason to do otherwise. You know what I mean? Like, don't judge a book by its cover. Like, I've interacted with so many people, you don't know their story. Like, so even in law enforcement, like everybody has a bad day. You know what I mean? Right. But like, just treat everybody the way you want to be treated. Like, don't ever, no matter what status you are, like, treat everybody the same way until they give you a reason not to.
Boom.
Very cool.
I think that puts a bow on it.
Yes, sir.
What do you think?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks
Adam.
for having me.
I really appreciate it. Keep putting out stuff about the bees and make more videos with Ben.
Yeah.
Definitely.
We'll have some up on the YouTube.
Yeah. Get more eyeballs on it, right? Yeah. That's what's going to help people educate themselves, make better decisions, and contribute potentially down the line, like just in their own lives. How can they live a little bit different to preserve things better?
Yeah.
So,
and we'll have you on in 4 years when you're doing something completely opposite.
When he's a helicopter pilot or something else.
That's on the list.
Okay. I know a guy. We can talk about that.
Okay. Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you, man.